Imagine standing at the edge of human history, where the shadows of the past hide secrets that scholars have chased for centuries. Unexplained disappearances, vanished civilizations, cryptic symbols etched in stone, and events that defy reason, all waiting to be unraveled. What really happened at places that time seems to have forgotten? How did ancient minds accomplish feats that modern science struggles to explain? Tonight, we journey through the 20 biggest historical mysteries that continue to baffle experts and ignite wonder. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the enigmatic echoes of our past. The frozen expanses of the northern hemisphere stretch endlessly, a quiet, glacial world of ice sheets and snowdrifts, where time seems to stand still. It is here, amid the stark silence of ancient landscapes, that clues to one of the most perplexing climatic events in human history are buried. Around 12,800 BC, the Earth entered a sudden and dramatic chill, a period now known as the Younger Dryas. Temperatures plummeted, glaciers advanced, and ecosystems shifted with breathtaking speed. For decades, scientists have puzzled over what could have triggered such an abrupt reversal, a planetary shiver that reshaped human civilizations and the natural world. Among the theories, one stands out for its audacity: the Younger Dryas impact theory. Could a celestial visitor, a comet or asteroid, have struck Earth, unleashing fire, shock waves, and climate chaos across continents? Evidence emerges in fragments: microscopic spherules, layers of soot, nanodiamonds, and traces of platinum scattered across North America, Europe, and even the Levant, including regions of Palestine. These markers, found in sedimentary layers dating precisely to the onset of the Younger Dryas, hint at something extraordinary, a force from beyond our atmosphere altering the course of life below. Mainstream explanations focus on disruptions in ocean currents, perhaps triggered by melting ice or shifts in freshwater inflows to the Atlantic. Yet the impact hypothesis persists, compelling in its dramatic logic. A cosmic strike could explain the sudden megafaunal extinctions, the disappearance of mammoths, mastodons, and giant ground sloths, and the abrupt decline of early human settlements. But as compelling as the evidence appears, it remains fiercely debated. Critics point to gaps in the data, alternative natural mechanisms, and the difficulty of pinpointing a specific impact site. And still, the anomalies refuse to be ignored. Imagine standing at the rim of a crater that may have once been carved by a cosmic visitor. The ground is silent now, yet beneath layers of soil and ash, traces of fire and upheaval endure. In North America, carbonized forests hint at vast wildfires. Across Europe, sudden climatic cooling seems to have disrupted established hunting and farming patterns. Even in the ancient lands of Palestine, archaeological layers reveal abrupt shifts in settlement and subsistence strategies. Could these changes be the distant echoes of an event whose epicenter lay far beyond the horizon? Speculation branches further into the unknown. Some researchers suggest a fragmented comet, striking multiple locations almost simultaneously, leaving a trail of destruction and atmospheric dust that plunged the planet into a decades-long chill. Others propose smaller, repeated impacts over centuries, a cosmic harbinger of change that humanity witnessed only indirectly, through harsh winters, famine, and social upheaval. Yet no crater of definitive age has been conclusively linked to this event. Did it burn itself into history through shock waves and fire rather than a single monumental impact? The Younger Dryas remains a puzzle, a silent witness etched into ice cores, sediment layers, and the fossil record. It challenges our understanding of Earth's fragility, the suddenness with which climate can shift, and the vulnerability of human societies dependent on predictable seasons. And the mystery is far from resolved. Could there still be evidence buried beneath glaciers, hidden in remote deserts, or submerged in seas that have swallowed ancient shorelines? What further secrets does the Earth hold, waiting for a patient observer to uncover them? As we examine each fragment, each layer of soil, and each trace of elemental anomaly, the younger Dryas continues to speak in whispers rather than declarations. It is a reminder that even the past, once thought solid and understood, can retain its enigmas. Perhaps somewhere, in ice or stone or sediment, the answer lies dormant, waiting for discovery, a cosmic message encoded in the scars of a planet briefly shaken, yet enduring. As the icy echoes of the younger Dryas slowly fade from our minds, the Earth's oceans begin to take center stage, vast, deep, and inscrutable, hiding both life and secrets beneath their surface. The same waters that may have carried the shock waves of cosmic impacts have also inspired stories of civilizations lost to the tides. Among the most enduring and tantalizing of these is the legend of Atlantis, a kingdom said to have existed beyond the horizon, a society of astonishing sophistication swallowed by the sea. Its story has captured the imagination of scholars, explorers, and dreamers for over 2 millennia, yet the line between history and myth remains as blurred as the horizon over a storm-tossed ocean. The earliest account comes to us from the writings of Plato, around 360 BC. In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, Plato describes a powerful island kingdom, larger than Libya and Asia combined, existing some 9,000 years before his own time. Atlantis was said to be a marvel of engineering, with concentric canals, bridges, and temples of gleaming stone, rich in metals and resources, and ruled by wise kings. Yet, according to Plato, this great civilization fell into decadence and was ultimately engulfed by the ocean in a single catastrophic day and night. Was Plato recounting an allegory, a moral tale of hubris and the fragility of human society? Or did his words preserve memories of a real place, lost in time but remembered in fragmentary detail? Geographically, the search for Atlantis has drawn eyes across the Mediterranean, into the Atlantic Ocean, and even to remote locations as far-flung as the Caribbean and Antarctica. Some researchers suggest that Plato's account could have been inspired by the Minoan civilization on Crete, devastated by the eruption of Thera, modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BC. Archaeological evidence points to cities buried under volcanic ash, sudden societal collapse, and migrations of populations, all strikingly resonant with the story of a civilization overwhelmed by natural catastrophe. Yet no site has yielded definitive proof, and the Atlantic or distant oceanic locales remain largely unexamined, leaving the possibility that Plato's Atlantis was either a real place or a composite memory of multiple ancient catastrophes. Beyond geology and archaeology, the legend of Atlantis intertwines with human imagination, mythology, and even celestial observation. Could rising seas following the younger Dryas have inspired oral traditions of lost lands? Were ancient maps and texts encoded with references to islands submerged beneath shifting coastlines, hints of civilizations erased by climate events, tsunamis, or earthquakes? Even in regions like Palestine, where ancient flood stories and maritime trading records endure, one finds traces of cautionary tales about water, power, and the impermanence of human achievement, narratives that resonate with Plato's account in both form and function. Speculative theories take us further still. Some propose that Atlantis was not a single island, but a network of seafaring city-states, now dispersed beneath the ocean, or that it represents a distant memory of encounters with advanced maritime cultures whose knowledge surpassed their contemporaries. Others suggest cosmic connections, imagining that floods, climate shifts, or even asteroid impacts, like those implicated in the younger Dryas, might have inspired myths of lands vanishing overnight. In every scenario, Atlantis continues to challenge our assumptions about the past. How much do we remember accurately, and how much is transformed through generations into legend? As we scan the waters where sunlight barely penetrates, it is easy to feel both awe and humility. Atlantis, whether metaphor or memory, endures as a symbol of mystery, a civilization at once imaginable and elusive. Perhaps, somewhere beneath layers of sediment, coral, and volcanic ash, clues wait patiently for discovery, fragments of a story lost to time but never entirely forgotten. Could the ocean still hold evidence of a world Plato described so vividly, or is the truth forever submerged, accessible only through the imagination of those who dare to search? From the whispers of Atlantis, our attention drifts once more to the sea, where coastlines stretch and retreat, shaping human history as much as they hide it. Imagine standing on a shoreline that has witnessed millennia, waves lapping against stones worn smooth, tides revealing fragments of forgotten harbors, and sands hiding the footprints of entire civilizations long swallowed by the water. Around the world, from the shores of the Mediterranean to the distant banks of Asia and the Americas, archaeologists and geologists are beginning to piece together a tantalizing possibility. Entire coastal civilizations, advanced and thriving, may have vanished beneath rising seas. The evidence, though often subtle, is compelling. Submerged ruins have been found off the coasts of modern Palestine, as well as in the eastern Mediterranean, India, and the Caribbean. Stone foundations, pottery shards, and remnants of piers hint at urban centers once bustling with trade and culture. Radiocarbon dating places some of these settlements in periods of rapid climatic change, particularly following the last ice age, when melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise dramatically. Could the memories of these submerged cities be encoded in myths of lost lands, stories like Atlantis, or the flood narratives preserved across countless cultures? Mainstream archaeology suggests a combination of natural processes, post-glacial sea level rise, tsunamis, and shifting river deltas gradually eroding coastlines. Indeed, maps of ancient coastlines reveal that what is now underwater may once have been fertile plains, fertile fishing grounds, and trade hubs connecting distant peoples. In the Levant, for instance, early settlements along the now submerged shores of the Mediterranean would have provided access to abundant resources and facilitated maritime trade. And yet, despite extensive excavations, much remains out of reach, hidden beneath meters of sediment and centuries of silt. Speculative theories extend further, imagining sophisticated maritime cultures that disappeared almost entirely beneath the waves. Could these coastal civilizations have possessed knowledge and technologies advanced for their time, engineering, navigation, even urban planning, that left few traces above water? Some researchers propose that sudden catastrophic events, mega tsunamis, earthquakes, or meteor impacts, could have wiped out entire coastal populations, leaving little more than submerged ruins and scattered artifacts. Are these remnants the physical echoes of societies we know only through imagination, myth, and fragments of stone? Consider the implications for human history. Coastal settlements would have been the first to experience dramatic climate shifts, and their disappearance could explain sudden gaps in cultural records, abrupt migrations, and even the origins of widespread flood myths. In regions like Palestine, where the intersection of land and sea has always shaped trade, agriculture, and settlement, the loss of such communities would have reshaped the cultural and economic landscape, leaving historians with tantalizing gaps and archaeologists with questions yet to be answered. There is also the intriguing possibility that some of these lost civilizations influenced later cultures, their knowledge and traditions passing indirectly through survivors or migrating populations. Could the echoes of submerged cities, ancient ports, and coastal communities have informed the legends of Atlantis, or inspired the architectural and cultural practices of inland societies? If so, the story of human civilization is not just one of survival on land, but also of adaptation to a changing, often unforgiving, coastal world. As we gaze across the calm, glimmering waters where these cities once thrived, one is struck by the fragility of human achievement. Whole civilizations can disappear beneath waves, leaving only traces for those patient enough to look. And while the scientific tools we possess today, sonar mapping, underwater archaeology, sediment analysis, offer glimpses into these forgotten worlds, many questions remain unanswered. How many cultures were lost to rising seas, never to be recorded? What wisdom, art, or knowledge sank silently beneath the tides, waiting for discovery? The oceans guard their secrets with relentless patience, and perhaps, somewhere beneath the surface, more hidden histories of humanity lie in wait. From the vanished coastal cities scattered across the Mediterranean and beyond, our journey now leads us to a body of water vast and enigmatic, the Black Sea. Stretching between Eastern Europe and the Anatolian Peninsula, its dark waters conceal a story as compelling as it is elusive. Beneath the surface, layers of sediment and silt preserve echoes of a world submerged, a chapter of human history almost forgotten. Around 7,600 BC, as the last ice age receded and glaciers melted, rising seas are believed to have poured through the Bosporus Strait, transforming a freshwater lake into the Black Sea we know today. Could this event have engulfed thriving communities, erasing entire civilizations from the map? The first hints of human habitation beneath these depths emerged in the late 20th century, when sonar scans revealed submerged terraces, stone structures, and what appear to be roads and foundations, remnants of a society that lived along the now flooded shores. Archaeologists and marine geologists have suggested that these findings may correspond to Neolithic settlements, communities that fished, farmed, and built along the Black Sea's ancient coastline. Pottery fragments, tools, and other artifacts found near the waterline suggest a people well adapted to their environment, whose lives were shaped as much by the rhythm of the waves as by the rising sun. Yet the story is far from complete. Mainstream research attributes the flooding to a rapid influx of saltwater, a catastrophic rise that may have added dozens of meters to the lake's surface in a matter of decades. But the implications reach beyond geology. Could such a sudden event explain the origins of flood myths preserved in cultures far from the Black Sea? Stories that speak of watery destruction, of lands swallowed in a single day, echo strangely across regions from Mesopotamia to Palestine, hinting at shared memories of catastrophe. Was this the inspiration for myths that survived millennia, passed from one generation to the next as oral histories before they were inscribed in scripture and legend? Speculative theories invite even deeper intrigue. Some researchers propose that the inundation was sudden enough to displace entire populations, forcing migrations along the Danube, the Aegean, and the Mediterranean coasts. Others suggest that the drowned settlements were part of a larger, interconnected network of early civilizations, lost beneath waves that permanently altered the trajectory of human development. Could this submerged society have been technologically advanced for its time? Its knowledge of agriculture, navigation, or social organization contributing indirectly to later civilizations along the coasts of Palestine and the wider Mediterranean? The images that sonar and underwater exploration provide are haunting. Linear formations that hint at roads, clustered shapes resembling foundations, and terraces that suggest careful planning and habitation. Yet the deeper we probe, the more questions arise. How many settlements were swallowed? Were they scattered communities or organized urban centers? And what became of the people who once called these shores home? Did they carry their culture with them as they migrated, seeding myths and technologies in new lands? Or were they lost to history entirely? As we imagine the Black Sea thousands of years ago, calm under a pale sky, it is almost possible to hear the echo of voices from villages now invisible beneath the waves. Their stories, silent yet persistent, linger in the sediment and in the myths that would eventually spread across continents. The lost civilization beneath the Black Sea reminds us that even in the seemingly immutable expanse of water, the past can lie hidden, waiting for discovery. Could future explorations, deeper dives, or refined technology uncover more of this sunken world, revealing truths that have lain undisturbed for nearly 10 millennia? The water holds its secrets with patient stillness, and for now, the mystery endures. From the shadowed depths of the Black Sea, where entire communities may have vanished beneath the waves, we turn now to a different stretch of ocean, where turquoise waters hide their own secrets just off the shore of Bimini in the Bahamas. Beneath the sunlight-dappled surface lies a formation that has both fascinated and confounded researchers for decades, a linear arrangement of massive rectangular stones stretching over 100 meters along the seafloor. Known as the Bimini Road, this mysterious formation hints at human design, or perhaps at nature's uncanny mimicry, and challenges our understanding of what the past may have left behind. First documented in the 1960s by local divers, the Bimini Road consists of enormous limestone blocks, some weighing several tons, aligned in apparent rows and intersecting at angles that seem deliberate. The stones lie submerged in shallow water, yet their geometry raises questions that resist easy explanation. Could this have been a natural formation, shaped over millennia by tides, currents, and the fracturing of limestone? Geologists suggest so, pointing to processes that can produce linearity and regularity. Yet the precision of the pattern, the apparent order in placement and size, tempts speculation. Is this simply a quirk of nature, or a remnant of something constructed long ago, now hidden beneath the sea? Some researchers propose that the Bimini Road may have been a man-made structure from the last ice age, when sea levels were lower and much of the surrounding land exposed. Perhaps it served as a pier, a road, or even a ceremonial site for a coastal civilization that has left few traces elsewhere. This theory gains intrigue when considered alongside the broader pattern of submerged settlements we have explored, from lost coastal cities of the Mediterranean to the sunken communities beneath the Black Sea. Could these stones be evidence of an early maritime culture, skilled in engineering and familiar with the rising tides that would eventually engulf their world? Speculation naturally extends further. Certain investigators have linked the Bimini Road to the legend of Atlantis, imagining that it may be one of the few surviving fragments of a civilization obliterated by sudden floods. Others suggest that it was part of a network of maritime structures, now mostly lost, that connected scattered communities along ancient coastlines, possibly even influencing cultures as far afield as Palestine and the wider Mediterranean. While no definitive artifacts have been recovered that confirm human construction, the formation's alignment and scale make it difficult to dismiss entirely. Could this be a message from the past? A trace of human ambition preserved beneath the waves, patiently waiting to be understood? The underwater landscape around the Bimini Road adds to its mystique. Terraces, ridges, and additional stone formations scatter across the seafloor, hinting at more than a single isolated feature. Even in the soft sway of ocean currents, the stones seem to suggest intent, a design whose purpose is lost to time. Were these structures practical, ceremonial, or both? And what might have driven their builders? Rising seas, trade, religious devotion, or something else entirely? As we glide above the Bimini Road, sunlight filtering through clear water illuminates the enormity of these stones and the quiet mystery they embody. Here, the boundary between natural process and human endeavor blurs, reminding us that the ocean can preserve what the land cannot, while simultaneously hiding it from view. Could other structures lie nearby, buried beneath sand and sediment, awaiting discovery? And if so, what stories of lost knowledge, vanished cultures, or forgotten innovation might they reveal? The Bimini Road endures as both a challenge and an invitation, a reminder that the ocean keeps its secrets with patience, and that history, in its deepest corners, is never fully told. From the sunlit stones of the Bimini Road, whose purpose and origins remain elusive beneath the gentle waves, we now turn to the vast, uncharted expanses of the world's oceans, ancient waters that both connected and isolated early human societies. Imagine standing on a rocky shoreline, the spray of salt water in your face, as the horizon stretches endlessly, a line of blue that holds both possibility and peril. Long before written history, humans ventured across these waters, leaving traces of their journeys in shell middens, primitive tools, and scattered settlements, yet without leaving the kind of records that might tell us who they were, or how they navigated such immense distances. Modern research has revealed astonishing clues. Artifacts from the Paleolithic era, found on remote islands in the Mediterranean, the Aegean, and even the distant coasts of the Pacific, suggest that humans crossed open waters far earlier than once believed, thousands of years before the rise of classical civilizations. Stone tools and pottery fragments appear on islands separated from the mainland by hundreds of kilometers, implying purposeful voyages rather than accidental drift. How did these early sailors, without compasses, charts, or written records, find their way across vast, featureless waters? Did they read the stars, the waves, or the flight patterns of birds? Or did they possess a form of knowledge now lost to time? Mainstream scholars suggest that prehistoric ocean navigation relied on observation, trial, and experience. Coastal routes, seasonal winds, and shallow draft rafts may have allowed small groups to explore nearby islands. Yet certain discoveries challenge the limits of these explanations. Some islands, like Crete, Malta, or remote parts of the Caribbean, were settled thousands of years ago, requiring sea voyages of hundreds of kilometers over open water, trips that would be dangerous even by modern standards. Could these early navigators have been far more sophisticated than we imagine, wielding knowledge of currents, tides, and celestial patterns long before the invention of advanced instruments? Speculative theories deepen the mystery. Some researchers propose that early humans may have understood principles of oceanic navigation that allowed for intentional long-distance travel, effectively connecting communities across seas and shaping the spread of culture, language, and technology. Others suggest that coastal and island settlements, such as those near Palestine and throughout the Mediterranean, formed part of early maritime networks, a hidden web of trade and communication that predates recorded history. Could the Bimini Road and other submerged coastal structures be remnants of such networks? Monuments to societies that mastered the sea long before we credited them with such skill? The evidence is tantalizing but fragmentary. Stone anchors, shell tools, and pottery shards scattered across distant shores. Oral traditions, preserved in myths of ocean spirits and sea voyages, hint at a deep awareness of tides, currents, and the stars. And yet, the precise methods remain unknown. Did these prehistoric sailors use celestial navigation, following the rising and setting of the sun and stars? Did they read the swells, the wind, and the movement of birds to chart courses to unseen lands? Or was there knowledge that has vanished entirely, leaving only the faintest echoes in the archaeological record? As we envision these early voyagers setting out from shores now submerged or lost to time, we see courage intertwined with mystery. Each wave carried risk, each horizon promised discovery or disappearance. The very existence of early maritime travel challenges our assumptions about the intelligence, ingenuity, and ambition of prehistoric peoples. Could the oceans themselves have been the crucible in which human innovation and exploration were first forged? And as the sun glints off the open sea, casting shimmering patterns across the water, one cannot help but wonder, how many journeys went unrecorded? how many settlements vanished beneath the waves, and how much knowledge about the art of navigation has been lost to time. The mystery endures, hidden in the vast, silent expanses of the oceans, waiting for those patient and daring enough to search for it. From the earliest voyages across open waters, where daring humans crossed unknown seas guided by instinct, observation, and perhaps knowledge now lost, we enter the world of prehistoric seafaring, a realm both awe-inspiring and enigmatic. Picture a small group of people standing at the edge of a rugged coastline, the sun dipping toward the horizon, and a fragile raft or dugout canoe bobbing in the surf. Beyond lies nothing but open water, waves stretching endlessly, yet these early travelers pushed onward, leaving the safety of land behind to explore, trade, and perhaps colonize distant shores. Archaeological evidence reveals that humans were capable of remarkable feats of seafaring tens of thousands of years ago. The settlement of Australia, for instance, around 50,000 BC, required crossings of hundreds of kilometers of open ocean, a journey that demands precise navigation, understanding of currents, and perhaps the ability to predict weather and tides. In the Mediterranean, early coastal communities, including those along the shores of Palestine, relied on small boats to transport goods, pottery, and people, gradually weaving networks of commerce and culture long before written records existed. These voyages suggest an understanding of maritime challenges that modern humans often underestimate. Mainstream explanations emphasize practical adaptation, simple rafts, outrigger canoes, and knowledge acquired through trial and error. Observation of the sun, stars, and ocean swells may have guided these early sailors. Yet certain discoveries strain these explanations. Artifacts found on isolated islands, submerged settlements off continental shelves, and evidence of trade over great distances hint at intentional planning and deliberate exploration. How did prehistoric humans conceive of distant lands they could not see? Did they possess early forms of maps, mnemonic systems, or oral navigation traditions that allowed them to cross vast expanses of water with accuracy? Speculative theories push the imagination further. Some suggest that prehistoric seafarers may have been part of highly organized maritime societies, capable of charting courses over open oceans long before the rise of classical civilizations. Could early seafaring have facilitated the spread of language, culture, and technology across continents, connecting communities from North Africa to the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, and even as far as the Caribbean? Could submerged sites, like the Bimini Road or ancient coastal terraces near Palestine, hint at ports, anchorages, or ceremonial landing sites once vital to these seafaring networks? The evidence is tantalizing yet fragmentary. Stone tools and pottery on remote islands, coastal settlements now underwater, and traces of ancient docks and breakwaters. Even myth and folklore carry whispers of early seafarers, the accounts of voyagers guided by stars, signs in the water, and the flight of birds. Could these oral traditions preserve knowledge of prehistoric maritime routes, passed down through generations long before the advent of writing? As we envision these journeys, the scale and courage of prehistoric seafaring becomes apparent. Each voyage carried immense risk, sudden storms, unpredictable currents, and the possibility of never reaching land. And yet, these early humans pressed forward, driven by necessity, curiosity, or the urge to explore. Their voyages remind us that the mastery of the ocean is not a recent achievement, but a pursuit that stretches back to the very beginnings of human ingenuity. Looking across the open seas, one cannot help but wonder what secrets still lie beneath the waves. How many coastal settlements were lost to rising waters? How many navigational techniques were forgotten? And how much knowledge of the sea has vanished into obscurity? The story of prehistoric seafaring is incomplete, yet in every ripple and current, in every artifact discovered far from home, we glimpse a past in which humans first learned to conquer and respect the vast, untamed oceans. Could there be further evidence, still hidden beneath the depths, waiting to reveal the extraordinary extent of our ancestors' maritime skill? From the boundless seas navigated by early humans, we now return to the vast, arid landscapes of northeastern Africa, to a place that seems at first to be nothing more than desert, yet conceals one of the oldest and most enigmatic human constructions in the world. Nabta Playa, a seasonal lakebed in what is now southern Egypt, offers a glimpse into a prehistoric society that thrived thousands of years ago, leaving behind stone structures that continue to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike. Here, under the scorching sun, scattered circles and alignments of massive stones rise from the sand, silent witnesses to rituals, knowledge, and perhaps astronomical insight. Excavations reveal that Nabta Playa was inhabited as far back as 7000 BC, a time when the region was far wetter, sustaining lakes, vegetation, and wildlife. The people who settled here were pastoralists, skilled in herding cattle and adapting to the rhythms of a changing environment. Yet, among ordinary tools and domestic implements, archaeologists discovered something extraordinary. Carefully arranged stone circles, oval structures, and alignments pointing toward the horizon in ways that appear to mark the rising and setting of stars and solstices. Could these stones represent the earliest known astronomical observatory, a prehistoric calendar encoded in rock, tracking celestial movements long before pyramids or written records? Mainstream interpretations focus on practical and ceremonial uses, markers for water sources, sacred sites for ritual gatherings, or calendars for tracking seasonal cycles crucial to survival. Yet the precision and scale of certain alignments challenge simple explanations. Some of the stones weigh several tons, suggesting coordinated labor, planning, and knowledge of construction techniques unexpected for communities of this era. How did these people achieve such feats without metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or complex engineering knowledge? And why here, in a remote desert basin, did they devote so much effort to arranging these stones with geometric and astronomical precision? Speculative theories deepen the mystery. Could Nabta Playa have been a center of early scientific observation, a place where prehistoric humans first began to map the skies? Some researchers suggest that its alignments correspond to key stars in constellations such as Orion, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of astronomy that may have influenced later civilizations across northeastern Africa, including regions near Palestine. Others wonder if the site held spiritual or ritual significance, its layout reflecting cosmological beliefs, a link between the heavens and human life. The combination of practical, ceremonial, and astronomical possibilities creates a tapestry of questions that remains largely unresolved. Further intrigue arises when considering Nabta Playa in the broader context of prehistoric human achievement. These stone structures predate the construction of the Great Pyramids by thousands of years, suggesting that advanced knowledge, both practical and symbolic, emerged far earlier than commonly assumed. Could Nabta Playa represent a missing chapter in the story of human cognition and organization? A society capable of uniting labor, observation, and symbolic thought to create something enduring in stone? Or are we witnessing fragments of a culture whose purpose we can only speculate about, glimpses of a complex worldview now lost to time and desert sands? Walking among these stones, one can almost feel the presence of those who arranged them, hear echoes of ceremonies conducted under the glare of an ancient sun, and sense the human fascination with patterns, the heavens, and order itself. Nabta Playa reminds us that even in landscapes that seem barren and desolate, human creativity, ingenuity, and curiosity can flourish, leaving behind traces that survive millennia. What else might remain undiscovered beneath the sands? How much of our understanding of early human societies is still buried, waiting to reveal the depths of knowledge, skill, and imagination of our ancestors. From the ceremonial stones of Nabta Playa, where early humans observed the heavens and aligned massive rocks with the movements of the stars, we turn now to another quiet revolution, one that reshaped the very relationship between humans and the land. Imagine a verdant valley in the Fertile Crescent near the regions of modern-day Palestine, where small communities first began to plant seeds rather than rely solely on the unpredictable bounty of wild plants. Here, in these ancient fields, humanity embarked on a path that would transform survival into sustenance, nomadic wandering into settled life, and fleeting gatherings into thriving societies. Archaeological evidence traces the beginnings of agriculture to around 10,000 BC, when humans began to domesticate wheat, barley, lentils, and other staple crops. Tools carved from stone and bone, storage pits, and early irrigation traces testify to intentional cultivation. But the transition was neither sudden nor fully understood. Why did communities who had survived for millennia as hunter-gatherers suddenly choose to till the soil and harvest the fruits of their labor? Was it a gradual response to climate change, a strategic adaptation to diminishing resources, or a conscious experimentation with the environment that sparked a new era of human development? Mainstream scholars often point to environmental pressures, the end of the last ice age and shifting rainfall patterns, as key catalysts for agriculture. Yet the precise mechanisms remain elusive. Evidence suggests that humans were actively selecting and cultivating plants far earlier than previously imagined, experimenting with growth cycles, soil fertility, and seed preservation. Such innovation implies foresight and planning, an intimate understanding of natural processes that challenges the assumption of early humans as purely reactive to environmental conditions. Speculative theories broaden the intrigue. Some suggest that agriculture may have arisen independently in multiple regions, driven by a combination of necessity, observation, and cultural transmission. Others propose that early humans possessed a kind of proto-scientific understanding of plant genetics and seasonal cycles, a knowledge now lost, which allowed them to manipulate nature in ways that appear remarkably advanced for the era. Could there have been ritual, spiritual, or even cosmological motivations intertwined with cultivation, echoing practices observed at sites like Nabta Playa, where celestial observation and human activity were closely linked? Consider the consequences. Agriculture enabled permanent settlements, population growth, and eventually, the emergence of cities. It allowed humans to store food, create surplus, and develop complex social hierarchies. Yet the mysteries linger. How did humans first discern which plants were suitable for domestication? And how did they overcome the challenges of pests, soil depletion, and climate unpredictability without modern knowledge? Why did certain regions, such as the Levant near Palestine, become early centers of cultivation, while others lagged despite seemingly favorable conditions? Walking through these ancient fields in the imagination, one senses both the ingenuity and the courage of these early farmers. Each planted seed represented hope and risk, a quiet gamble with nature that would alter the course of human history. The act of cultivation, repeated over generations, laid the foundation for civilizations, for art, science, and the very fabric of culture itself. And yet, for all we know, much of this story remains buried beneath layers of soil and time. Could there be forgotten methods, lost crops, or early agricultural settlements submerged by rising seas, waiting to reveal secrets that would redefine our understanding of human ingenuity? The origins of agriculture remind us that even the simplest acts, sowing a seed, tending a field, carry profound mysteries, linking us directly to our ancestors' first conscious efforts to shape the world around them. From the quiet fields where early humans first learned to sow and harvest, our journey moves to a landscape that bears witness to one of the earliest known architectural marvels in human history. In the ancient city of Jericho, near the plains of what is now Palestine, a structure rises from the archaeological record that continues to confound scholars. A massive stone tower, built around 8000 BC, long before written history. Imagine standing on the remnants of its circular base, feeling the weight of centuries, and contemplating the vision of those who first stacked stones with a purpose, creating not just shelter, but a monument whose meaning is still elusive. The Tower of Jericho, over 8 meters high and constructed from undressed limestone, is remarkable for its scale and precision. Its walls, carefully built and reinforced, rise from a stone base that suggests advanced knowledge of stability and construction. Yet the function of the tower remains mysterious. Was it a defensive fortification, protecting inhabitants from floods, wild animals, or rival groups? Or was it a ceremonial structure, a marker of community identity, astronomical observation, or even religious devotion? The placement of the tower, adjacent to the ancient settlement and its defensive walls, hints at deliberate planning, yet the absence of written records leaves its true purpose shrouded in uncertainty. Mainstream archaeological interpretations suggest that the tower reflects the organizational abilities of early agricultural societies, demonstrating coordination, labor management, and communal effort. Its construction implies a society capable of long-term planning, capable of moving massive stones and assembling them with precision. And yet, the sheer audacity of such an undertaking raises questions about the motivations behind it. Why dedicate immense resources to a single structure at such an early point in human history? What knowledge guided the builders, and how did they communicate and execute their vision across generations? Speculative theories invite deeper intrigue. Some researchers propose that the tower may have served as a form of proto-astronomical observatory, oriented to align with celestial events, marking solstices or tracking the movement of stars, a connection that resonates with the astronomical alignments observed at sites like Nabta Playa. Could early humans have encoded knowledge of time, seasons, and celestial patterns into stone, creating a physical map of the cosmos that also served as a social and spiritual anchor? Others suggest symbolic interpretations. Perhaps the tower represented collective memory, a monument to survival, or a declaration of human ingenuity in the face of an unpredictable natural world. The Tower of Jericho also raises questions about the continuity of knowledge. In a world still transitioning from nomadic hunting and gathering to settled agriculture, the ability to organize labor, plan construction, and manipulate stone at this scale is extraordinary. Did these early builders share techniques with neighboring communities near Palestine and across the Levant, influencing the spread of architectural innovation? Or was this an isolated achievement, a unique testament to the creativity and ambition of a single early society? As we imagine standing at the base of the tower, sunlight casting long shadows across its stones, it is easy to sense the hands of countless individuals who labored to build it, and the eyes of those who may have looked skyward, seeing patterns in the stars reflected in the stones below. The tower endures as both a physical and intellectual mystery, a reminder that human ambition, ingenuity, and curiosity have long left traces that challenge our understanding. And yet, for all its age and significance, the tower leaves us with questions that remain unanswered. What drove these early humans to create such a monument? What knowledge, ritual, or necessity shaped its construction? Could other structures, equally ambitious, lie hidden beneath layers of earth, waiting to reveal more about the minds of our distant ancestors? The Tower of Jericho stands as a silent sentinel of the past, a challenge to our imagination, and a testament to humanity's earliest architectural dreams. From the towering stones of Jericho, where early humans etched their presence into the land, our journey now moves to the edge of the sea, where waves lap over a village long swallowed by water. Off the coast of what is now Palestine, beneath several meters of the Mediterranean, lies Atlit-Yam, a Neolithic settlement preserved beneath the waves, frozen in time yet shrouded in mystery. Picture a landscape once dry, dotted with simple homes, hearths, and carefully arranged stone circles, now hidden beneath shimmering water, glimpses of its walls and streets revealed only by modern divers and sonar surveys. Here, the past lies submerged, both fragile and hauntingly tangible. Excavations reveal a society that existed around 6,300 BC, contemporaneous with some of the earliest developments in agriculture and settlement. Stone foundations, circular dwellings, and wells hint at a community adapted to both land and water, balancing daily survival with sophisticated planning. The village includes evidence of ritual activity, stone monoliths and ceremonial pits that suggest not just subsistence, but symbolic or spiritual practice. Inhabitants relied on domesticated crops, wild plants, and livestock, illustrating a remarkable understanding of resource management. Yet, it is the circumstances of its submersion that spark the deepest questions. How did a thriving community, capable of manipulating its environment, come to vanish beneath the waves? Mainstream explanations attribute the flooding of Atlit-Yam to rising sea levels following the last ice age, possibly accelerated by tectonic shifts or localized subsidence. The gradual inundation of coastlines is well documented, yet the precision with which elements of the village remain intact suggests sudden, catastrophic forces may also have played a role. Could earthquakes, tsunamis, or abrupt climate events have forced residents to abandon their homes, leaving behind a snapshot of Neolithic life as it was centuries before written history emerged? The material remains provide tantalizing clues. Stone circles within the settlement align with celestial bodies, reminiscent of distant sites such as Nabta Playa, suggesting a sophisticated awareness of astronomical cycles. Wells and cisterns indicate deliberate water management, and evidence of fish and marine shells shows exploitation of coastal resources, hinting at early seafaring or fishing techniques. Yet the combination of engineering, ritual, and location challenges conventional narratives about the capabilities of Neolithic societies. How did these communities achieve such precision and planning without advanced tools? Were these skills widespread or unique to Atlit-Yam, a microcosm of ingenuity now lost to time? Speculative theories deepen the intrigue. Some researchers propose that Atlit-Yam may have been part of a network of early coastal settlements stretching across the Levant, exchanging knowledge, crops, and technology with inland communities near Palestine. Others suggest that sudden environmental changes could have prompted a diaspora, dispersing cultural and technological practices across regions. The village's submersion might even connect to ancient myths of lost lands and watery catastrophes. Memories encoded in collective storytelling, preserved across generations in ways we are only beginning to appreciate. Could Atlit-Yam represent a real-world foundation for these stories, a tangible intersection of human ingenuity and natural forces? Walking through its submerged streets in the imagination, one senses both vitality and vulnerability. Hearths once lit, children once played, and people once gathered beneath the stars, unaware that the sea would claim their homes. Atlit-Yam reminds us that human history is not linear or confined to dry land. Entire chapters may lie beneath water, waiting for discovery, preserved in sediment, stone, and silence. And yet, despite what we have uncovered, so much remains unanswered. How did the community perceive and respond to environmental changes? What rituals, knowledge, or stories were lost when the waters rose? Could further exploration reveal additional structures, sacred spaces, or evidence of trade and communication with other Neolithic sites along the Levantine coast? Atlit-Yam endures as both a monument and a mystery, a submerged window into the lives of our distant ancestors, inviting us to ponder the fragility and resilience of early human civilization. Beneath the waves, the village waits, silent but eloquent, hinting at secrets still untold and histories yet to be fully understood. How many other Atlit-Yams remain hidden along the Mediterranean and beyond, waiting to illuminate the complex tapestry of early human life and the profound interplay between humanity and nature? From the submerged streets of Atlit-Yam, where the sea preserved the echoes of Neolithic life, we turn now to a frozen world long vanished, a landscape shaped by ice and colossal creatures whose existence dwarfed our imagination. Across the steppes, tundras, and forests of Pleistocene Earth, the Ice Age megafauna roamed, mammoths with curved tusks reaching skyward, giant ground sloths dragging their massive limbs through dense foliage, saber-toothed cats prowling the shadows of prehistoric forests, and enormous bison grazing the plains near what is now Palestine. Their bones, scattered across continents, whisper stories of power, survival, and an abrupt, mysterious disappearance. These magnificent animals thrived for tens of thousands of years, perfectly adapted to the cold, harsh landscapes of the last glacial period. Fossil evidence shows a rich diversity of life. Creatures evolved for strength, endurance, and defense, coexisting with early humans who hunted them and revered them in their emerging symbolic and ritual practices. But between 12,000 and 10,000 BC, a striking transformation occurred. In a geological blink, the landscapes grew quieter. The mammoths, giant deer, and other megafauna vanished from most of the world, leaving only fragmented populations in isolated regions. The cause of this mass extinction remains a subject of intense debate and speculation. Mainstream explanations focus on two primary factors: climate change and human activity. As the Ice Age ended, the planet warmed rapidly, glaciers receded, and ecosystems shifted. Some species may have struggled to adapt to new environments, shrinking habitats, and altered vegetation. Simultaneously, evidence of human hunting intensifies during this period. Archaeologists have found butchery marks on bones, sophisticated tools, and signs of organized hunting strategies. Could the combination of environmental stress and increasing predation have tipped the balance, driving these giants to extinction? Or is the story more complex than a simple causal chain? Speculative theories invite even deeper intrigue. Some scientists propose that sudden cataclysmic events, a series of cometary impacts, massive wildfires, or abrupt climate fluctuations, may have decimated populations in a short span. Could ancient humans have witnessed these events firsthand, recording them in the myths and oral traditions passed down for generations? Others suggest that diseases, perhaps introduced by migratory humans or other species, contributed to the rapid collapse of these ecosystems. And yet, despite modern technology, there is no single conclusive explanation that accounts for the speed, scale, and geographic spread of the megafauna's disappearance. The implications of this mystery ripple through time. The loss of these creatures not only transformed ecosystems, but also reshaped the trajectory of human development. Without mammoths, giant deer, or other megafauna, early human societies adapted in new ways, relying more heavily on smaller game, plant cultivation, and permanent settlements. The very shift that gave rise to agriculture and villages near Palestine may have been influenced in part by the absence of these giants. Could the extinction of the megafauna have created both ecological opportunity and existential pressure, prompting innovation, migration, and the dawn of complex human societies? Walking through fossil beds in imagination, one senses the magnitude of what has been lost. The ground once thundered beneath enormous feet. Forests rang with the calls of creatures now silent, and humans navigated a world teeming with awe-inspiring life forms that no longer exist. The disappearance of the Ice Age megafauna reminds us that the natural world is fragile. that even the mightiest beings can vanish under the combined weight of environmental change and human influence. And yet, mysteries remain. Were there survivors in isolated refuges, leaving descendants that evolved in ways we have yet to discover? Are there undiscovered sites, frozen or buried, that could reveal interactions between humans and megafauna in unexpected ways? How much of the story has been lost beneath layers of earth, ice, and sediment, waiting to shed light on a chapter of life both terrifying and magnificent? The megafauna may be gone, but their legacy lingers in the bones they left behind, the ecosystems they shaped, and the questions they continue to pose. Their disappearance invites us to wonder, what other enigmas of the Pleistocene remain hidden, waiting to reveal the untold dramas of a world long vanished? From the silent plains once roamed by Ice Age giants, we now turn to the vast, frozen expanses that defined a world in transition. Across continents, from the glacial heartlands of North America to the icy reaches near what is now Palestine, the Earth underwent a dramatic transformation around 11,700 BC, a sudden warming that would bring the Ice Age to an end. Imagine standing on the edge of a melting glacier, feeling the slow drip of water, the groan of ice shifting beneath the sun, as entire landscapes reconfigure in a matter of decades. The world was awakening from a long winter, yet the abruptness of this change continues to puzzle scientists and historians alike. Geological evidence paints a vivid picture. Ice sheets that once stretched for thousands of kilometers began to retreat at unprecedented rates. Sea levels rose, reshaping coastlines, swallowing valleys, and creating new lakes and rivers. Sediment cores, frozen pollen, and isotopic data reveal temperature shifts of up to 10 degrees Celsius in remarkably short periods, a change rapid enough to disrupt ecosystems and challenge the survival strategies of both humans and animals. The disappearance of the megafauna we just explored coincides with this upheaval, suggesting a profound connection between environmental catastrophe and the fate of life on Earth. Mainstream explanations propose a combination of factors: natural fluctuations in Earth's orbit, greenhouse gas variations, and the release of fresh water from melting glaciers into the oceans, which may have disrupted global ocean currents and weather patterns. These processes could account for the speed and intensity of warming, yet the precision and uniformity of change across diverse regions remain difficult to fully explain. How could such a global phenomenon occur with such swiftness, leaving entire species, settlements, and ecosystems scrambling to adapt? Speculative theories add layers of mystery. Some researchers suggest that cosmic events, such as cometary impacts or fragments of asteroid showers, may have accelerated warming or triggered massive flooding events. Evidence of widespread wildfires, sudden sediment deposits, and even traces of high-energy particles in ice cores invites questions. Did a celestial event punctuate the end of the Ice Age, or are we seeing echoes of a far more complex chain of natural processes? Could early humans, scattered across continents, have witnessed these transformations firsthand, their oral traditions preserving memories of floods, storms, and catastrophic upheaval that modern science has only recently begun to decode? The implications for human societies were profound. Populations who had relied on hunting Ice Age giants, fishing along rivers, or gathering in coastal communities suddenly faced new challenges. The rising seas and shifting climates forced migrations, reshaped settlements, and catalyzed innovations in agriculture, tools, and social organization. In regions like Palestine, early farming communities may have adapted to these changes, laying the groundwork for permanent settlements, food storage, and the architectural feats we have seen in Jericho and beyond. But how did they perceive such a world transformed in their lifetimes? Did they interpret it as divine will, natural cycles, or something far more ominous? Walking through this period in imagination, one senses both the beauty and terror of sudden transformation. Forests expanded into former tundras, rivers carved new paths, and the oceans claimed lands once dry. Yet amid this upheaval, human ingenuity persisted. People learned to plant crops, manage water, and build shelters capable of withstanding an uncertain world. Nature reshaped itself, and humanity reshaped itself in turn, a delicate dance between survival and adaptation. And still, questions remain. What precise triggers set off the rapid warming that ended the Ice Age? Were there regional variations, hidden catastrophes, or forgotten migrations that have yet to be uncovered? Could remnants of communities, technologies, or ecological knowledge lie buried beneath sediments, waiting to illuminate the human and environmental responses to one of the most dramatic climatic shifts in history? The sudden end of the Ice Age reminds us that Earth's history is punctuated by abrupt change, and that the past holds mysteries that challenge our understanding of resilience, adaptation, and survival. The glaciers are gone, the megafauna silent, and yet the echoes of this transformation still ripple through our landscapes, our genetics, and our stories, inviting us to wonder what secrets lie just beneath the surface, waiting for discovery. As the last glaciers retreated and the Earth warmed, human communities across the globe were confronted with both opportunity and uncertainty. In the valleys near what is now Palestine, along riverbanks and fertile plains, small groups gathered around fires, hunting grounds, and newly irrigated fields. Amid these landscapes of renewal, a profound transformation was quietly unfolding, not in stone or bone, but in sound, breath, and the subtle orchestration of the human voice. Here, the mystery of the first human language emerges, one of the most elusive and compelling enigmas of our species. Imagine early humans speaking for the first time in structured utterances, experimenting with rhythm, tone, and pitch, perhaps to coordinate hunts, warn of predators, or pass down stories of survival. Yet unlike tools or dwellings, language leaves no fossilized trace. What archaeologists can uncover are indirect clues, markings on bones that suggest vocal development, symbolic engravings on cave walls, and the emergence of complex social structures that imply sophisticated communication. But when, where, and how humans first spoke in a way that could be called language remains uncertain, an invisible thread weaving through the fabric of prehistory. Mainstream theories suggest that language arose gradually, an evolutionary adaptation to social complexity. As human groups expanded and settlements multiplied, the need for coordination and shared knowledge may have prompted the development of grammar and vocabulary. Evidence from cranial and vocal anatomy indicates that by 50,000 BC, humans possessed the physical capacity for complex speech. Yet there is still no definitive marker of the first words or the structure of the earliest languages. Were they simple imitations of natural sounds, chants, or rudimentary signs? Or did early humans immediately conceive abstract concepts, capable of conveying ideas that transcended immediate survival needs? Speculative perspectives deepen the mystery. Some linguists propose that the first language may have been melodic, a musical system of communication blending song, gesture, and emotion, a form of speech designed not merely to convey information, but to forge community, memory, and culture. Others suggest that language might have been inspired by divine or natural forces, a gift or awakening that allowed humans to reflect upon the world and their place within it. Could the first words have contained names for the land, the sun, the sea, or even the unseen forces that shaped life? Did early humans intuitively embed meaning, ritual, and awe into their earliest expressions? Archaeological sites in and around Palestine hint at early communication. Symbols etched in stone and clay, organized settlements, and evidence of shared ritual practices suggest that language, in some form, existed long before written records. storytelling may have emerged as a central part of community life, shaping memory, transmitting survival strategies, and preserving spiritual or cultural knowledge. Even gestures, facial expressions, and coordinated labor point toward the existence of complex, symbolic communication. Yet all of this is indirect, leaving the origin of spoken language tantalizingly out of reach. The implications are profound. Language is more than words. It is the foundation of culture, imagination, and consciousness itself. Without it, humans could not transmit knowledge across generations, organize societies, or contemplate the past and future. If the first language arose suddenly, it would mark a moment of unprecedented cognitive transformation. If it developed gradually, it suggests a long, iterative evolution of thought, culture, and collaboration. Either way, the mystery challenges our understanding of what it means to be human. And still, questions remain. Did the earliest humans speak in a single language, or were multiple systems emerging in parallel across distant regions? How did these proto-languages evolve, merge, and diverge into the thousands of tongues that exist today? Could remnants of this first language, encoded in sound patterns or shared symbols, still echo through the languages we speak, poetry we compose, and stories we tell? The mystery of the first human language reminds us that history is not only written in stone or bone, but in the intangible threads of communication, thought, and imagination. Its origin remains shrouded, a shadow hovering at the edge of consciousness, inviting us to ponder the very moment humans became storytellers, teachers, and witnesses to their own existence. The first word, whatever it may have been, is lost to time, but its legacy resonates in every human voice that has ever spoken since. From the first sparks of human speech, which allowed our ancestors to share thoughts, warnings, and stories, the night sky beckoned with a silent, eternal language of its own. Across the plains near what is now Palestine, where early humans gathered around flickering fires, the vast canopy of stars stretched overhead, shimmering with patterns that demanded attention. Some points of light traced familiar paths, rising and falling with the seasons, while others glimmered in unpredictable ways, seeming almost to speak in a rhythm only the careful observer could understand. It is here, beneath the endless vault of the cosmos, that the mystery of the earliest star knowledge begins. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans were studying the heavens far earlier than most imagine. From Paleolithic cave engravings to megalithic arrangements, there are hints that early societies were keenly aware of celestial movements. Constellations, solstices, equinoxes, and the cycles of the moon and planets appear to have guided ritual, agricultural, and navigational decisions. But how did this knowledge first emerge? Did early humans intuitively map the stars, or did they witness extraordinary celestial events, comets, meteor showers, or eclipses, that compelled them to record and interpret the skies? Mainstream scholars point to the gradual development of observational astronomy, rooted in survival needs. Predicting seasonal changes could determine when to plant crops, hunt migratory herds, or seek shelter from harsh winters. Over millennia, patterns in the sky became a calendar, a compass, and even a spiritual framework for understanding the universe. Yet many artifacts defy easy explanation. Star-like engravings on bones, abstract carvings in deep cave chambers, and alignments of stone circles suggest that humans were contemplating the cosmos, not only for practical purposes, but also for symbolic and perhaps mystical reasons. Speculative theories expand this mystery further. Some researchers propose that these early observers may have recognized phenomena we still struggle to understand. Supernovae, precession of the equinoxes, or the irregular motion of planets. Could early humans have developed a form of proto-astronomy capable of tracking time across centuries? Others suggest that star knowledge may have been encoded into myths, oral traditions, and sacred stories, linking celestial events with human destiny, morality, and the cycles of life and death. Were the earliest constellations simply mnemonic devices, or were they vessels for profound, hidden insights about the structure of the universe? Evidence in Palestine and surrounding regions provides tantalizing clues. Ancient monuments and alignments, such as circular enclosures or carefully placed stones, hint at sophisticated observation. Certain rock carvings correspond to the rising of specific stars at particular times of the year, suggesting intentional design rather than coincidence. Yet without written records, we are left to wonder, were these markers purely practical, guiding the rhythms of agricultural life, or did they serve a deeper ceremonial or spiritual purpose? Did early humans gaze upward in reverence, seeking guidance or communion with forces beyond their comprehension? The implications are staggering. If even rudimentary star knowledge existed tens of thousands of years ago, it suggests a level of abstract thought, memory, and observation that transforms our understanding of prehistoric cognition. It implies a desire not only to survive, but to comprehend, to see themselves as part of a larger cosmic order. The night sky became a mirror, reflecting both the world above and the world within. Imagination, curiosity, and perhaps the first inklings of science and philosophy intertwined. And yet, questions remain. How extensive was this knowledge, and how was it transmitted across generations? Did early humans observe, interpret, and forget, or did a continuous thread of star lore evolve into the astronomical systems recorded later in history? Could there be undiscovered sites, buried and lost beneath sands or forests, that preserve evidence of these early cosmic insights? The mystery of the earliest star knowledge reminds us that human curiosity has always reached beyond the immediate, toward the infinite. Beneath the same stars that guided our distant ancestors, we continue to ask the same questions. What do these lights mean? Can we decipher their patterns? And most profoundly, what secrets of the universe, etched into the cosmos itself, remain hidden, waiting for discovery? From the first glimmers of celestial awareness, humanity's gaze began to ascend, not only toward the stars, but toward the very structures that seemed to echo the heavens themselves. Across the arid plains of what is now southeastern Turkey, near the upper reaches of ancient river valleys, an astonishing discovery has long puzzled scholars: the T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe. Rising like monolithic sentinels from the earth, some reaching over 6 meters in height, these enigmatic stones stand arranged in circular enclosures, their surfaces carved with depictions of animals, abstract symbols, and intricate geometric motifs. Here, as in the earliest observatories and stargazing sites, we are confronted with evidence of a consciousness reaching far beyond the mundane, a deliberate attempt to impose order, or perhaps meaning, upon the universe. The T-shaped pillars are among the oldest known monumental structures, dating back to approximately 9,600 BC, a time when most humans were thought to live in small, mobile bands of hunter-gatherers. How could such groups conceive, carve, and transport these massive stones without advanced tools or wheel technology? The mainstream interpretation suggests that these pillars were part of ritual or religious complexes, perhaps serving as centers for communal gatherings, ceremonies, or even the earliest forms of organized worship. Yet the precision and scale of construction hint at knowledge and coordination that surpasses conventional expectations for the era. Beyond their practical and ritualistic significance, the carvings on these pillars suggest a profound symbolic sophistication. Animals, lions, scorpions, snakes, and boars, appear alongside abstract markings, sometimes in sequences that might represent calendars, cosmological charts, or mythic narratives. Could these motifs reflect the movement of stars, constellations, or even planetary cycles observed by prehistoric humans, linking the T-shaped pillars to the earlier mystery of celestial knowledge? Some researchers have proposed that the circles themselves mimic the patterns of the night sky, transforming stone into a tangible representation of the cosmos. Yet without written records, the intent remains elusive, a silent code carved in rock that teases the imagination. Speculative interpretations deepen the intrigue. Some suggest that the T-shaped pillars represent anthropomorphic figures, perhaps ancestors or deities, embodying human traits while simultaneously reaching toward the divine. Others propose that these megaliths were part of an initiatory or esoteric system, a form of knowledge sharing encoded in stone for those who were ready to understand it. Could it be that these structures were the earliest libraries of symbolic thought, preserving collective memory and cosmology long before writing existed? And if so, what prompted such monumental efforts among communities still reliant on hunting and gathering? The construction itself remains a marvel. Quarrying, shaping, and erecting the pillars would have required immense labor, sophisticated planning, and social cohesion. The precise alignment of the circles and pillars suggests intentionality and a vision that extended far beyond immediate survival needs. Could the people of Göbekli Tepe have possessed a conceptual understanding of geometry, spatial relationships, or even engineering principles that modern scholars are only beginning to recognize? Were these stones a form of communication with the gods, the ancestors, or perhaps even the cosmos itself? The T-shaped pillars invite more questions than they answer. How did such knowledge originate, and how was it transmitted across generations? Why were these sites deliberately buried around 8000 BC, long after their initial construction, leaving future civilizations unaware of their existence? Were they forgotten or intentionally concealed to preserve their mystery and power? Could the act of burial itself have been symbolic, a ritual gesture marking a transition in human society, or the end of an era? As we stand in the shadow of these monoliths today, it is impossible not to feel the weight of the unknown pressing against the imagination. The mystery of the T-shaped pillars connects us to our distant ancestors, whose minds were capable of envisioning worlds far larger and more intricate than their immediate environment. They remind us that the pursuit of knowledge, whether of the stars, the human voice, or the divine, has always been a driving force for our species. And yet, the true purpose of these stones, their secrets, their messages, their meaning, remains lost to time, waiting for those willing to ponder the questions they silently pose. From the monumental T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe, where early humans sought to encode the mysteries of the cosmos in stone, our journey now moves into the shadowy recesses of the earth, where the earliest expressions of human imagination are preserved on the walls of caves. Deep within these dark, often hidden chambers, the flickering light of ancient fires once danced across rough rock surfaces, illuminating images that have endured for tens of thousands of years. Here, in remote sites scattered across Europe, the Near East, and even parts of Palestine, the first cave artists left behind traces of a profound inner world, an intersection of observation, symbolism, and human emotion that continues to captivate modern scholars. The walls of these caves are covered with depictions of animals: horses frozen mid-gallop, bison rendered with astonishing realism, lions and mammoths etched with both precision and expressive flair. But alongside these creatures are enigmatic geometric shapes, hand stencils, and abstract symbols whose meaning is still debated. Some are carefully placed, suggesting an awareness of perspective, depth, and movement, while others appear spontaneous, almost instinctual. Could these early humans have been attempting to capture not just what they saw, but what they felt? Were these images a form of ritual, a method of storytelling, or even a way to communicate with forces beyond the visible world? Archaeologists have dated many of these artworks to as early as 30,000 BC during the Upper Paleolithic period. The caves of Lascaux in France, Chauvet in France as well, and sites like the caves of Palestine reveal not only artistic skill but also a profound understanding of the natural world. Each brushstroke and carving suggests keen observation of animal behavior, anatomy, and motion. Yet questions remain. How did humans at this time develop such sophisticated techniques without the benefit of settled society or formal training? Could this artistic impulse have been a universal trait of human consciousness, emerging independently in diverse regions across the globe? Mainstream scholarship often interprets these cave paintings as ritualistic or symbolic, perhaps intended to ensure successful hunts or to connect the living with unseen spiritual realms. Some researchers suggest they functioned as early forms of communication, transmitting knowledge about migratory patterns, seasonal changes, or the dangers and rewards of the surrounding landscape. Yet the scale and complexity of the compositions hint at deeper, more enigmatic purposes. Why were some chambers deliberately difficult to access, requiring crawling through narrow tunnels or descending steep inclines, when more accessible walls would have sufficed? Was the journey itself part of the ritual, a passage into a sacred space where the images held heightened power or significance? Speculative interpretations push these mysteries even further. Some theorists propose that the cave walls served as portals to altered states of consciousness, places where early humans engaged with visions inspired by dreams, trance, or hallucinogens. Others suggest the symbols encoded knowledge far beyond hunting and survival, astronomical observations, maps of the landscape, or even proto-writing that we have yet to decipher. Could it be that these caves were early classrooms, laboratories of imagination, where our ancestors experimented with abstraction, narrative, and symbolism? Evidence from recent studies adds layers to this mystery. The placement of images often aligns with natural features of the caves, such as undulations in the rock that mimic the shapes of the animals painted upon them. In some cases, hand stencils, created by blowing pigment over the hand pressed against the wall, are positioned in ways that interact with the surrounding imagery, as if the artists were engaging in a dialogue with the space itself. Were these choices purely aesthetic, or did they carry deeper meaning, perhaps marking lineage, identity, or spiritual authority? The first cave artists also challenge assumptions about gender and social structure in prehistoric communities. Some evidence suggests that both men and women participated in these creative acts, and that children may have been introduced early to these sacred spaces, learning to observe, imitate, and innovate. The creation of art in such challenging and often dangerous environments implies that these activities were central to community life, integral to cultural continuity and the formation of identity. Yet even with these insights, the full purpose, method, and meaning of the artwork remain tantalizingly out of reach. We are left with questions that persist as we step back into the flickering shadows of these ancient spaces. How did humans first conceive of the idea that images could hold power, that marks on stone could transcend time and communicate across generations? Were these caves mere canvases, or did they represent early temples, stages for spiritual engagement, or even laboratories for exploring the human mind? Could there be other, as yet undiscovered sites where the first sparks of human imagination were expressed in ways that challenge everything we think we know about prehistoric life? Standing before these works today, one cannot help but feel a profound connection to the minds that created them. The first cave artists remind us that from the very beginning, humans sought not only to survive, but to understand, to interpret, and to transform the world through imagination. They left messages carved into the very fabric of the earth, silent yet eloquent, offering us glimpses into thought, emotion, and wonder that span tens of millennia. And as we study their work, we are confronted with the enduring question: what other secrets of the human mind, encoded in pigment and stone, remain hidden, waiting for the light of discovery to reveal them? From the dark recesses of the caves where the earliest humans first etched their thoughts onto stone, our journey now shifts outward, beyond the walls of those sacred chambers, into the vast tapestry of the human story itself. The echoes of flint tools and painted animals fade, replaced by the silent testimony of our very DNA, a record written not in pigment or stone, but in the microscopic strands of life that trace the journey of our species across millennia. Here lies a puzzle that has long perplexed geneticists, archaeologists, and anthropologists alike. The human genetic bottleneck, an enigmatic chapter in our history when it seems our ancestors nearly vanished from the earth. Studies of modern human genomes reveal a startling fact. Around 70,000 BC, evidence suggests that the population of Homo sapiens may have fallen to an astonishingly small number, perhaps only a few thousand individuals. Such a dramatic contraction would have left an indelible mark on our DNA, reducing genetic diversity and altering the course of evolution in ways we are only beginning to understand. How could a species so resilient, so adaptive, have been reduced to such precarious numbers? What cataclysmic events, environmental pressures, or unknown forces could have brought humanity to the brink of extinction, leaving only scattered survivors to repopulate the globe? The mainstream explanations point to environmental upheavals. Around this time, the Earth experienced the Toba supervolcano eruption on the island of Sumatra, one of the most powerful eruptions in recorded geological history. The volcano would have ejected tens of cubic kilometers of ash into the atmosphere, blotting out the sun, triggering sudden global cooling, and drastically altering ecosystems. Some researchers propose that this volcanic winter led to crop failures, famine, and widespread mortality, pushing human populations to dangerously low levels. Could this single natural event have been sufficient to trigger a bottleneck that reshaped the genetic fate of our species? Yet, as with many moments in deep prehistory, the evidence is far from conclusive. Fossil records are sparse, scattered across continents, and often fragmentary. While the eruption of Toba is well documented, the direct correlation with human population decline is inferred rather than definitively observed. Some genetic studies even suggest that population contractions may have occurred in multiple waves across different regions, rather than from a single catastrophic event. Were there other, more subtle pressures at work, climatic oscillations, disease outbreaks, or competition with other hominin species, that compounded the effects of the volcanic cataclysm? Speculative theories push the mystery further. Could early humans have been vulnerable not only to environmental threats, but also to unknown cosmic events? Some researchers have suggested that cometary debris or extraterrestrial impacts may have caused localized disasters, triggering fires, tsunamis, or atmospheric changes that decimated populations. Others hypothesize that the survival of humanity may have depended on small, isolated groups with unique strategies for adaptation, groups that were scattered, mobile, and secretive, perhaps leaving almost no trace in the archaeological record. If true, could the human story be far more precarious and miraculous than we have ever imagined? Genetic evidence adds layers of both clarity and enigma. By analyzing mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down maternally, scientists can trace lineages back to a so-called mitochondrial Eve, a woman who lived during this bottleneck period and whose descendants carry the genetic legacy of survival. Likewise, studies of Y chromosome DNA suggest that male lineages also converged, indicating that only a small fraction of early humans contributed to the genetic pool of later generations. What were the lives of these survivors like? How did they endure the extreme pressures of climate, scarcity, and isolation? Were they merely fortunate, or did they possess knowledge, skills, or adaptations lost to time? Even more intriguing is the global distribution of genetic signatures. Although these bottlenecked populations were small, they eventually dispersed, colonizing vast regions from Africa to Asia, Europe, and the coasts of the Indian Ocean. This dispersal suggests resilience and ingenuity, yet it also raises further questions. Did these humans maintain cultural practices and oral knowledge across generations, passing down survival strategies that allowed them to thrive despite their genetic vulnerability? And if so, might some of the rituals, myths, and artistic expressions we have glimpsed in caves, like those of the first cave artists, be echoes of this precarious era, encoded in memory and symbol rather than in DNA? The human genetic bottleneck remains one of the most profound mysteries of our species. It is a reminder that beneath the surface of our collective story lies a history of fragility, near extinction, and extraordinary survival. While modern humans number in the billions today, the shadows of those ancient survivors linger in every cell, every inherited trait, and every genetic quirk that marks our shared ancestry. Could there be aspects of this bottleneck, causes, consequences, and lost knowledge that we may never uncover? Are there hidden records in remote caves, submerged settlements, or unexplored archaeological sites that could shed light on the tiny groups who carried humanity forward when the world teetered on the edge of collapse? As we contemplate these questions, it becomes clear that the mystery of the human genetic bottleneck is not only a scientific puzzle, but also a meditation on survival, resilience, and the fragile threads that bind life across the ages. The story is far from complete, and each discovery, whether in DNA, fossils, or artifacts, offers both answers and new enigmas, challenging us to look deeper, think broader, and wonder what other secrets of our distant past remain hidden, waiting to emerge from the shadows. From the fragile strands of DNA that whisper tales of survival, our journey now turns toward another thread woven deep into the human story: the emergence of spiritual belief. Where survival alone might have been enough to sustain early humans, there is evidence that, across continents, communities sought something more: a sense of meaning, connection, and reverence for the unseen forces of their world. In the dim glow of flickering fires, in the shadows of towering cliffs and the quiet of ancient caves, the earliest signs of spirituality begin to emerge, silent yet profoundly resonant, echoing across tens of thousands of years. Consider the caves themselves, those sanctuaries of stone where the first artists recorded visions of animals, humans, and abstract symbols. These spaces were not merely practical shelters. Many archaeologists suggest they were sacred places, carefully chosen for their acoustics, their isolation, or the play of light upon their walls. Could the gestures of painting, the careful layering of ochre, the deliberate placement of bones and stones, have been early rituals, a means to engage with powers beyond the observable world? Did the first humans perceive spirits in the wind, the rustle of leaves, or the flight of birds, seeking guidance, protection, or understanding? Evidence from burial sites offers further clues. Long before the construction of monumental structures, humans were interring their dead with intention. In some sites, bodies are found surrounded by tools, ornaments, or animal remains, suggesting reverence for the journey of the soul. The very act of burial implies belief, a recognition that life continues in some form beyond physical existence, a trust in forces unseen, or at least the desire to honor them. How did these early humans interpret death? Were these practices born from fear, hope, or an innate sense of the sacred? Across the globe, similar patterns arise independently. In Africa, at sites like Blombos Cave and Border Cave, symbolic objects, beads, engraved stones, ochre, suggest a cognitive leap, the capacity for abstract thought, imagination, and ritual. In Europe, cave paintings from Chauvet and Lascaux hint at storytelling, myth-making, and perhaps attempts to influence natural events through sympathetic magic. In Asia, engraved figurines and early ceremonial objects indicate emerging systems of belief that predate written language. Were these expressions attempts to communicate with invisible forces, to exert some control over uncertain realities, or merely reflections of a mind wrestling with existence itself? Mainstream anthropological explanations often focus on social cohesion. Rituals, ceremonies, and shared beliefs may have promoted group unity, cooperation, and survival. Spiritual practices could have been adaptive, reinforcing norms, codifying moral behavior, or encouraging care for the vulnerable. Yet this functionalist perspective cannot fully explain the depth and complexity of early spiritual expression. Why, for instance, did some communities invest significant labor in sites they could never inhabit permanently, arranging stones, constructing mounds, or decorating walls with painstaking care? Why did abstract symbols appear alongside depictions of the natural world, suggesting a cognitive awareness that surpassed immediate survival needs? Speculative theories deepen the mystery. Some researchers propose that early humans experienced altered states of consciousness through sensory deprivation in caves, rhythmic drumming, or psychoactive substances, opening pathways to visionary experiences that informed ritual and spiritual practice. Could these encounters have formed the first myths, the earliest notions of gods, spirits, or cosmic order? Might our ancestors have glimpsed truths that language could not yet convey, encoding them in images, gestures, and ceremonial acts that still resonate with us today? Natural phenomena may have also inspired reverence. Thunderstorms, eclipses, floods, and volcanic eruptions would have appeared as acts of will by forces far beyond human understanding. Could the tremors beneath their feet, the rise and fall of rivers, or the relentless cycles of the sun and moon have been interpreted as messages from powerful beings? In this way, the earliest spiritual beliefs were inseparable from the environment, entwining observation, imagination, and awe into a worldview that sought meaning in both life and death. Material evidence of these early spiritual endeavors is tantalizing yet incomplete. Sites like Göbekli Tepe in present-day Turkey, though much later, suggest continuity in sacred architecture, a physical manifestation of belief and ceremony that extends back tens of thousands of years. Even earlier, subtle patterns in cave art, figurines, and burial practices hint at networks of shared understanding, suggesting that spirituality was not random, but a defining element of human cognition. Did these practices vary widely among communities, or were there shared archetypes emerging independently across distant landscapes? And what knowledge might have been lost entirely, erased by the millennia, leaving only fragments of intent and mystery? It is tempting to search for a singular origin, a moment when humans became spiritual. Yet the evidence resists such neat categorization. Spirituality likely evolved gradually, a spectrum of practices, beliefs, and experiences interwoven with survival, social structure, and cognitive development. Each gesture of reverence, each careful burial, each cave painting represents a mind reaching toward understanding, grappling with questions that remain timeless. Why are we here? What comes after death? What unseen forces shape the world around us? The mystery deepens when we consider continuity. Modern humans, across cultures and continents, continue to create sacred spaces, perform rituals, and seek meaning in ways that echo those earliest acts. Could there be a connection, however indirect, between the caves of Lascaux and the temples, mosques, and synagogues of today? Do the impulses that led to the first offerings, carvings, and chants reflect universal aspects of human cognition, or were they unique experiments in consciousness, fleeting and fragile, preserved only through imitation and memory? As we reflect on the origins of spiritual belief, we confront not only archaeology and anthropology, but the enduring questions of human existence. Spirituality may have begun as a means to cope, to communicate, or to unite, yet it evolved into a profound exploration of meaning, ethics, and connection. The silent walls of caves, the careful arrangement of burial stones, and the faint traces of painted symbols remind us that even tens of thousands of years ago, humans were seeking answers that transcend survival. The mystery remains open. What truly prompted the first humans to kneel, paint, or whisper prayers into the darkness? What unseen experiences shaped their consciousness, guiding the evolution of belief across generations? And what secrets of the spiritual mind, encoded in ancient DNA, art, and ritual, still await discovery beneath the earth, beneath the water, or within the hidden recesses of time? In contemplating these questions, we are reminded that spirituality is not a relic of the past, but a thread that continues to weave through the human story, linking our ancestors' search for meaning to our own. It is a testament to the enduring curiosity, creativity, and wonder that define our species, a mystery that, like life itself, remains beautifully unresolved. From the depths of human consciousness, we turn now to stories carried across millennia, voices that have never been written down, yet have survived, unbroken, through countless generations. In the remote deserts, dense forests, and sweeping coasts of Australia, the world's oldest continuous culture has preserved an extraordinary archive, not of stone or clay, but of sound, memory, and ritual. These are the Aboriginal oral histories, narratives as ancient as the land itself, rich with wisdom, observation, and, in some cases, accounts of events so distant they challenge our understanding of time. Imagine the early dawn breaking over the ochre-red plains, the sun casting long shadows across spinifex and rocky outcrops. Elders sit beside a flickering fire, their voices low but resonant, weaving stories of creation, of ancestral beings, of journeys that span oceans and rivers. The stories themselves are deceptively simple, full of imagery: serpents carving valleys, stars dancing in the sky, waters retreating to reveal new lands. Yet beneath this poetic surface lies something profoundly mysterious, a record that may extend far beyond memory, perhaps preserving glimpses of events that occurred tens of thousands of years ago. Scientific studies increasingly suggest that these oral traditions are more than mythology. Consider, for instance, accounts that describe rising seas, shifting coastlines, and catastrophic floods. Geologists have found evidence of dramatic sea level rise at the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago, when the coastlines of Australia and surrounding regions transformed almost overnight. Could these stories, passed orally for countless generations, be describing real events, memories of a lost world, preserved in narrative form long before writing existed? How did these communities retain such precise recollections across millennia without distortion? And what does this suggest about human memory and the preservation of knowledge? Aboriginal narratives also contain remarkable astronomical observations. Some Dreamtime stories recount the movements of planets, the positions of stars, and eclipses with astonishing accuracy. In certain cases, these stories appear to encode knowledge of cosmic events that occurred thousands of years ago. Were these narratives purely mythological, or did they reflect empirical observation embedded within symbolic language? Could the same oral traditions that guide moral and spiritual life also serve as a repository of historical and scientific knowledge, bridging the gap between story and reality? The preservation of this knowledge is all the more remarkable considering the passage of time and the fragility of human memory. How did oral cultures, without written records, transmit stories with such continuity? Anthropologists suggest that rituals, song cycles, and repeated ceremonial performances may have acted as mnemonic devices, embedding complex information in rhythm, melody, and communal participation. Every gesture, every pause, every intonation reinforced memory, ensuring that the stories remained faithful across generations. Yet even with these techniques, the endurance of specific, detailed recollections over tens of thousands of years borders on the extraordinary, challenging assumptions about the limits of human cognition. Some Aboriginal stories describe landscapes that no longer exist, areas submerged beneath the ocean or reshaped by tectonic activity. These narratives often describe islands, bays, and river systems that archaeologists have confirmed were flooded at the end of the Ice Age. Could oral traditions really preserve observations from more than 10,000 years ago? If so, what does this imply about the ways early humans perceived, remembered, and communicated complex environmental changes? The mystery deepens when we consider the broader implications. If oral histories can preserve events over such vast spans of time, how much ancient knowledge remains hidden, encoded in the songs, dances, and narratives of other indigenous peoples around the world? Mainstream explanations often categorize these stories as allegory or spiritual teaching, emphasizing moral, social, or religious lessons. While these interpretations are undoubtedly valid, they may only scratch the surface. Could the Dreamtime, with its intricate tales of ancestral beings, land formation, and cosmic order, also serve as a subtle form of record-keeping, a bridge between human experience and natural history? Some researchers suggest that ancient Aboriginal communities understood cyclical environmental patterns in ways that modern science is only beginning to appreciate. Perhaps these narratives, like encoded maps, offer insight into migration routes, seasonal cycles, and survival strategies in an unforgiving landscape. Speculative theories push even further. Could oral traditions preserve knowledge of catastrophic cosmic events, asteroid impacts, or climatic upheavals that shaped human history? Are there fragments of lost knowledge embedded in ritual and song, memories of a time when human civilizations confronted forces beyond comprehension? While these ideas cannot be conclusively proven, the mere possibility invites us to reconsider the scope of human awareness, memory, and the methods through which knowledge can survive across the ages. The mystery of Aboriginal oral histories is compounded by their continuous evolution. Stories adapt to contemporary life, yet their core elements, often linked to geography, astronomy, or ancestral beings, remain intact. This dynamic quality suggests a living tradition, one that is both flexible and deeply conservative, capable of transmitting profound truths across vast spans of time while accommodating change. How did ancient humans manage this delicate balance, preserving fidelity without the aid of writing, while ensuring relevance across generations? And what other narratives, buried in distant lands or silenced by time, might contain equally remarkable insights into the ancient world? As we reflect on the mystery of these oral histories, we are reminded that human understanding extends beyond artifacts, bones, or monumental structures. Some of the oldest and most enduring knowledge exists in sound, memory, and story, in the cadence of voices carried across firelight and landscape. The challenge lies not only in interpreting these stories, but in appreciating the depth of their resilience, a repository of human experience, environmental observation, and spiritual inquiry that defies conventional temporal boundaries. Ultimately, the mystery remains open. What did these ancient storytellers truly witness? How much of their knowledge reflects first-hand observation, and how much has been symbolically encoded to survive the passage of millennia? Could these oral histories contain answers to questions that archaeology and geology have yet to reveal? And as we listen carefully to these voices from the past, what might we learn about memory, consciousness, and the extraordinary capacity of humans to preserve meaning across the vast stretches of time? In contemplating the ancient Aboriginal oral traditions, we glimpse a human story that is at once intimate and monumental. It is a testament to the ingenuity, reverence, and observational skill of early humans, a narrative that continues to speak to us today, inviting wonder, humility, and the acknowledgement that some mysteries of the past are not lost, but waiting patiently in the cadence of a story, the melody of a song, and the silence between spoken words. From the mist-shrouded waters of the western Pacific emerges a city unlike any other, a labyrinth of stone and lagoon that defies easy explanation. Madol, often called the Venice of the Pacific, rises from the ocean near the island of Pohnpei in Micronesia. Its foundations, enormous basalt columns stacked with precision to create artificial islets, are arranged with a sophistication that suggests not only ingenuity, but also an understanding of engineering and cosmology far ahead of its time. Here, on this watery stage, we encounter questions that have confounded historians, archaeologists, and travelers for centuries. Who built it? Why? And how? The site of Madol is breathtaking. Narrow canals weave between more than 90 artificial islets, their edges lined with dark basalt walls that rise up to 20 feet in some places. The stones, quarried from nearby islands, were transported across treacherous waters, yet there is no record of what methods the builders used. Every block fits with meticulous precision, a silent testament to human labor and planning. Walking through the ruins, one cannot help but feel the weight of history pressing down, the voices of the past echoing through empty corridors and across tidal inlets. Mainstream archaeology attributes Madol to the Saudeleur dynasty, which ruled Pohnpei for centuries. Oral traditions recount that the rulers, known for their centralization of power, orchestrated the construction of the city to serve both political and ceremonial purposes. Madol became a seat of authority, a sacred center for governance, religion, and burial, a tangible manifestation of the Saudeleur's control over the islands. But even here, the mystery persists. No written records describe the logistics, the workforce, or the precise methods by which massive basalt blocks were transported and lifted. How did a society, without wheels or beasts of burden, manage such a feat across a chain of remote islands? The intrigue deepens when we consider the precursor theories of Madol, suggestions that hint at an even older origin, one that precedes the known dynasties. Some researchers have proposed that the city may have been built upon or alongside earlier settlements that have yet to be uncovered. Beneath the basalt walls, sediment cores and remnants of earlier structures occasionally reveal traces of human activity predating the Saudeleur era. Could there have been a forgotten civilization, one whose knowledge of engineering and oceanic adaptation was passed down through oral tradition, eventually giving rise to the monumental city we see today? Fringe theories expand the mystery even further. Some speculate that Madol's alignment with certain celestial events suggests astronomical knowledge beyond what is typically credited to early Pacific Islanders. Others point to the unusual precision of the stonework and the sheer scale of construction as evidence that lost technologies, perhaps now forgotten, were employed. Could there have been external influences, travelers from distant lands who brought ideas, methods, or even labor that remain hidden in the archaeological record? And if so, why would these origins be obscured in history, leaving us only with the enigmatic remnants of canals, temples, and tombs? The sea itself may hold secrets. Madol is built upon a coral reef, where tidal currents and rising waters would have presented formidable challenges. Some scholars have suggested that the city's location was chosen not only for its defensibility and ceremonial significance, but also because the builders possessed an intimate knowledge of ocean currents, tides, and reef engineering. How did early islanders acquire such sophisticated maritime understanding? And if they were able to manipulate natural forces to support construction on this scale, could this reflect a broader, now lost tradition of oceanic ingenuity? Even the human element adds to the enigma. Nan Madol's layout reflects both hierarchy and ritual. Certain islets were reserved for the elite, others for ceremonial purposes, burial, or habitation. The spatial organization mirrors a society deeply attuned to symbolism, power, and sacred geography. Yet, despite centuries of study, the full social, political, and religious significance of these structures remains elusive. How did the Saudeleurs, or perhaps earlier builders, balance the functional demands of a complex city with the metaphysical imperatives of ritual, cosmology, and ancestor worship? Geological studies provide tantalizing hints. Basalt blocks weigh several tons each, quarried from distant locations and transported across miles of open water. Even today, replicating this feat with modern technology presents challenges. Could it be that the original builders developed methods now lost to time, techniques that allowed them to move, lift, and arrange massive stones without the aid of cranes or pulleys? If so, what other remnants of these methods lie hidden beneath the ocean or under layers of volcanic sediment? Speculative theories sometimes push into the extraordinary, suggesting that Nan Madol may be linked to a wider network of prehistoric oceanic civilizations. Some researchers draw comparisons to megalithic sites in Southeast Asia or even Polynesia, suggesting shared knowledge or ancestral traditions. Could there have been a broader, interconnected seafaring culture that influenced island construction across the Pacific long before European contact? And if such a network existed, what traces, material or oral, remain to be discovered? Ultimately, the mystery of Nan Madol persists because the city itself is a riddle written in stone, water, and memory. It challenges our assumptions about technological development, human ingenuity, and the limits of ancient societies. Every wall, every canal, every burial is a question: how, why, and by whom? And while mainstream archaeology provides context and chronology, the precursor theories invite us to imagine what may have come before, hidden beneath layers of sediment, legend, and the passage of time. As we leave the shadowed ruins of Nan Madol, we are left with a lingering sense of wonder. What knowledge has been lost to the tides? How much of human history lies buried, waiting beneath coral, sand, and sea, preserved in silent monuments that speak to ingenuity, faith, and ambition? And as the Pacific waves lap against the ancient stones, we are reminded that some mysteries of history are not merely to be solved, they are to be felt, contemplated, and marveled at, their answers perhaps always just beyond reach. The first light of dawn touches the rolling plains, illuminating the faint outlines of circular enclosures, remnants of a world long forgotten. Smoke curls lazily from small hearths, mingling with the morning mist as though the land itself breathes quietly, holding secrets beneath its soil. Here, in places scattered across the Fertile Crescent and beyond, the story of humanity's first permanent settlement begins, a story that defies simplicity, where survival, ingenuity, and the stirrings of civilization converge in ways still largely obscured by time. Archaeologists call these early sites proto-villages, but the term feels inadequate. They are more than temporary shelters or seasonal camps. They are the first deliberate attempts to anchor human life in one location. Stone foundations, circular dwellings, storage pits for grains, and carefully arranged hearths all hint at a conscious effort to build permanence. Yet, as with many milestones in human history, the closer we look, the more mysteries emerge. What compelled these early people, who had been foragers for hundreds of millennia, to abandon a mobile lifestyle? Was it climate, population pressure, or some shift in collective understanding that made staying in one place not only possible but desirable? One of the earliest known settlements is Jericho, perched near the Jordan River in Palestine. Its foundations date back to around 9000 BC, making it a remarkable testament to human innovation at a time when the world was still largely dominated by nomadic bands. Circular stone houses rise from the earth in neat clusters, their walls thick and insulated. A towering stone structure, perhaps a watchtower or ceremonial monument, looms over the settlement, a symbol of authority, protection, or ritual, though its precise purpose remains unknown. Each element of Jericho's design suggests foresight, planning, and a communal effort that is astonishing for its age. But Jericho is not unique. Across the Fertile Crescent, in regions now spanning Iraq, Syria, and southeastern Turkey, similar early settlements hint at a pattern. Humans were beginning to see the landscape not just as a source of resources, but as a canvas upon which to craft enduring lives. Storage facilities reveal the cultivation of grains. Hearths and refuse pits speak of organized domestic life, and burial sites suggest an awareness of ancestry and perhaps spirituality. These settlements mark a turning point in human history, a transition from wandering to rootedness, from ephemeral existence to the first sparks of civilization. Yet the origins of permanent settlement are riddled with questions. For centuries, mainstream archaeology has attributed this shift primarily to the advent of agriculture. Farming, the theory goes, provided reliable food sources that encouraged people to remain in one place. But evidence from sites like Jericho, Çatalhöyük, and Tel Abu Hureyra complicates this narrative. Some early settlements appear to predate large-scale agriculture, relying instead on a combination of foraging, fishing, and early domestication. Could it be that the desire to settle arose independently of farming, driven by social or spiritual factors rather than purely economic necessity? The more we examine these sites, the more anomalies surface. At Jericho, the massive stone tower and thick defensive walls suggest concerns about protection, but from whom or what? Neighboring communities, wild animals, or perhaps natural disasters? Across other early settlements, archaeologists uncover evidence of sudden fires, intentional construction layers, and communal burial practices that imply complex social organization, far beyond what might be expected of small groups of early humans. Could there have been a shared cultural knowledge, or even a network of communication linking distant settlements, allowing ideas about permanence and communal life to spread more quickly than we currently understand? Speculative theories delve even deeper, asking whether the first settlements were influenced by environmental catastrophes or dramatic climate events. The younger Dryas, a sudden return of glacial conditions around 10,800 BC, would have disrupted ecosystems and food availability across the Near East. Did such stressors compel humans to experiment with sedentary life, concentrating efforts in favorable locations like river valleys, where water, game, and fertile soil provided a lifeline? And if so, what knowledge, rituals, or innovations were developed in response? Knowledge that may have been lost, leaving only stone foundations and subtle traces in the soil as evidence of extraordinary adaptation? Maritime and inland connectivity may also have played a role. Some settlements reveal tools, ornaments, and materials originating from distant regions, suggesting trade or migration networks far older than traditionally thought. Was the first settlement an isolated leap, or part of a wider pattern of interconnected communities experimenting with permanence, sharing techniques for construction, storage, and social organization? The possibility invites us to reconsider how early humans perceived space, territory, and community. Concepts we often assume were primitive, yet the archaeological record hints at sophisticated awareness. Even the simplest features, the arrangement of homes, the placement of hearths, the orientation of walls, carry questions. Archaeologists debate whether these designs reflect practical concerns, social hierarchies, or spiritual symbolism. Did early humans align dwellings with celestial bodies, water sources, or sacred landmarks? Were these early villages centers of ritual, learning, and governance, as well as habitation? In a world devoid of written language, The meaning of these choices remains elusive, preserved only in material traces and the gaps between them. The mystery deepens when we consider the transient nature of many early settlements. Some thrived for centuries before being abandoned, leaving little more than foundations and ceremonial markers. Why were they deserted? Environmental change, depletion of resources, disease, or social conflict could explain some disappearances, but the recurrence of abandonment across multiple sites suggests more complex forces at play. Could human psychology, cultural evolution, or spiritual practice have guided patterns of settlement and desertion, influencing where life flourished and where it faded? As we explore the earliest permanent human settlements, the questions multiply. What inspired humans to stop wandering and begin building? How did they organize labor, allocate resources, and transmit knowledge without written language? Did they communicate with neighboring groups, sharing discoveries that would shape future civilizations? And what might remain hidden beneath layers of sediment, water, and time, waiting for discovery, capable of rewriting our understanding of humanity's first steps toward permanence? The mystery of the first settlement is not simply a question of chronology or technology. It is a story of human courage, curiosity, and imagination, a leap from survival to creation, from fleeting existence to rooted life. Each stone foundation, each hearth, each burial pit is a testament to the choices of people who, millennia ago, dared to stay, to build, and to dream of a life anchored to a single place. And yet, for all we uncover, the full story remains tantalizingly out of reach. As the sun rises over ancient river valleys and plains, casting long shadows across remnants of stone and earth, we are left with the same profound question that must have occupied those first settlers. What does it truly mean to call a place home? And in that question, we sense that the story of permanence, of human ingenuity, resilience, and the unfolding of civilization remains far from fully told. How much of our past, still buried beneath the soil, awaits revelation? What other first steps, achievements, and mysteries lie hidden in the lands that first dared to host human life in permanence? The first light of dawn spills across the arid expanse of the Nile Delta, illuminating mud brick ruins and scattered temples whose walls whisper of lives long gone. Somewhere beneath the sands, beneath the fragments of hieroglyphs and the weathered statues of pharaohs, lies a quieter, more elusive memory, one that stretches beyond Egypt, beyond the Great Pyramids, into a distant, almost forgotten past. It is the memory of water, of deluge, of a world submerged, a memory preserved not in stone or papyrus, but in the voices and stories passed from one generation to the next. Across cultures and continents, from the rivers of Mesopotamia to the highlands of Papua New Guinea, from the jungles of the Americas to the islands of the Pacific, tales of a great flood recur with astonishing consistency. In Egypt, the inundation of the Nile was both a blessing and a terror, an annual event that sustained life yet reminded all of the precariousness of existence. Yet some scholars have noted echoes in these narratives that go far beyond the predictable rhythm of the river's rise and fall. Legends speak not merely of seasonal floods, but of a single catastrophic inundation, one that reshaped the land, washed away entire communities, and left survivors to recount stories of a watery apocalypse. Could these tales carry a shadow of a far older memory, a relic of a global event etched into the collective consciousness of humanity? In Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh recounts the tale of Utnapishtim, a man warned by the gods to build a vessel to survive a flood that would engulf the world. The Bible and other Middle Eastern texts recount the story of Noah and the Ark, a divine command to save life while all else perished. In India, the tale of Manu speaks of a cosmic flood and a wise fish that guided him to safety. Across the Americas, native oral traditions describe great floods that reshaped the lands and waters, separating mountains and creating new rivers. Even in Australia, Aboriginal stories speak of deluges and rising waters that transformed landscapes and forced communities to migrate. The striking similarity of these stories, of immense waters covering the earth, of chosen survivors, of the preservation of life through foresight or divine guidance, cannot easily be dismissed as coincidence. Geologists and climatologists have long debated the possibility of a historical flood that could have inspired such pervasive tales. One line of investigation points to the end of the last ice age, around 11,600 BC, when melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise dramatically. Coastal areas, then populated by hunter-gatherer communities, would have been inundated, forcing survivors to move inland. Archaeological evidence suggests that settlements along what is now the Black Sea were submerged by a rapid influx of water, a phenomenon some researchers propose could have inspired the flood myths of surrounding regions. Could this have been a singular event, so dramatic that its memory persisted through countless generations, encoded not in written records, but in the oral traditions that carried the past into the future? Yet, as compelling as these geological correlations are, they raise as many questions as they answer. How were these events remembered so vividly across vast distances and disparate cultures? Human memory, particularly in pre-literate societies, is notoriously fallible. Could such stories truly survive tens of thousands of years without distortion, or did successive floods, local disasters, and environmental upheavals contribute to a continuous cycle of retelling, each generation adding details, each culture reshaping the narrative to fit its own context? And yet, despite these variables, the recurring motifs, the deluge, the chosen survivor, the preservation of animals, the reshaping of the land, remain remarkably consistent. In Egypt, the flood myth takes on a uniquely symbolic dimension. The annual inundation of the Nile was intertwined with the cosmology of creation, the rise and fall of the god Hapi, and the rituals of kingship. Temples were oriented to capture the sun's path over water, while carvings depict figures navigating waterways with a reverence that borders on the sacred. Could these traditions be echoes of an event far older than the dynasties, predating the first pharaohs, predating the earliest cities of the Nile Valley? Some researchers speculate that the great inundation tales preserved by Egyptian priests might not merely describe seasonal flooding, but a distant memory of a cataclysm so profound it altered the course of human history itself. Beyond Egypt, the global resonance of flood stories hints at an even more profound mystery. Could these myths point to a shared human experience, a memory of a natural disaster so immense that it became part of the collective imagination? Or are they symbolic constructs, a way for early humans to make sense of a fragile world in which water could sustain or destroy with equal force? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between, a convergence of actual historical events, environmental catastrophes, and the psychological imprint of survival. Speculative theories extend this line of thought into realms that challenge conventional archaeology. Some suggest that the sudden rise in sea levels following the Ice Age might have triggered migrations and the spread of early cultural practices, linking distant civilizations through shared experiences of loss and survival. Others posit that the flood stories preserve subtle knowledge of geography, astronomy, and hydrology encoded in mythic form to ensure continuity across generations. Could ancient people have carried not only oral narratives, but practical warnings about rivers, coasts, and weather patterns, concealed within the dramatic language of gods and deluge? Even the timing of these events aligns intriguingly with other mysteries of prehistory. Around 12,000 BC, many regions experienced profound ecological upheaval. The Younger Dryas, a period of sudden climatic cooling, dramatically altered habitats and food sources. Could these cataclysmic shifts have amplified human vulnerability to flooding, thereby embedding these experiences into the oral traditions that would survive millennia? And if so, what does that suggest about our ancestors' ability to observe, remember, and transmit knowledge across generations in ways that modern science is only beginning to appreciate? Yet for all the evidence, certainty remains elusive. No single archaeological site provides a complete record of a global flood. Geology offers clues but rarely absolute proof. Oral traditions, while strikingly consistent, are inherently interpretive, shaped by the cultures that preserved them. The more we examine these narratives, the more the line between history and myth blurs, and the harder it becomes to separate memory from metaphor. And perhaps that is the point. The mystery of the flood is not merely a question of whether water once covered the earth. It is a window into human consciousness, into our instinct to remember, to warn, to preserve. It asks us to consider the fragility of life, the power of nature, and the endurance of memory. What did the first storytellers hope to convey? How much of their world, their fears, and their understanding of catastrophe has survived, hidden in plain sight, in the myths that have traveled across continents and millennia? As the sun sets over the Nile, casting long reflections across channels and remnants of ancient canals, one is left with an unsettling awareness. The stories of a great flood may not be mere myth. They may be the echoes of a collective memory, a faint whisper of a world once submerged, a reminder that human history is shaped as much by survival as by discovery. How many other secrets, hidden beneath rivers, seas, and sands, remain waiting to be revealed? What does it mean that so many cultures, separated by vast distances, remember the same deluge? And perhaps most hauntingly, what does it tell us about our own vulnerability and our enduring need to remember? In the end, the possible memory of a global flood is more than a tale of water and destruction. It is a mirror reflecting humanity's resilience, its imagination, and its mysterious capacity to hold on to truths that defy time. And as night falls over Egypt and the world beyond, the waters of the past continue to ripple in our collective consciousness, inviting us to wonder, what else lies beneath the surface of history, waiting to resurface in stories that refuse to be forgotten?